I never thought the day would come, but it's finally here. I have finished this book, finally, for myself. The Haunted Mansion tie-in, not tie-in, but the Haunted Mansion book, Haunted Mansion Storm and Shade by Claudia Gray. As you can hear, some ASMR right now. How do you like that? ASMR sounds. Let's see if we can do some page flips. I don't know if it caught that, because then this would just be awkward. And I have some opinions on this book. There haven't been a lot of reviews so far because it's still pretty new. But they've mostly been positive, and I'm not going to completely hate on this book, but I do have some negatives. But first, let's start with some positives. Positives. I thought the writing was okay. I thought it was good. I say good because there are some parts in this book, some aspects where it felt like the writing was mostly just dedicated to long tangents and descriptions of things, but I'll go more in detail on that on the negative parts. But the writing was fine. Claudia Gray is a fine writer. It was nothing super impressive. It was decent. But now that I got that, I guess I should give a quick description of what the book is about. It's about this girl, Audrey. Her family moves. I think they already lived in New Orleans, but they moved to another part of it, where in her neighborhood, I think it was in her neighborhood or something, the Haunted Mansion is located in. And she becomes entangled with it, and shenanigans ensue, I guess. And there's also this big threat that isn't really a ghost. It's just like this it's not a ghost, it's more like this being. They call it the Shade in the book. But we'll get to that in a bit. I liked Audrey. She was a fine main character. She was a fine main character. One of her more defining traits is that she has anxiety. She suffers from anxiety. So it's another Haunted Mansion story where the main character has fears and is anxious, and and the Haunted Mansion is like a metaphor stand-in for like them conquering their fears. You know, like most adaptations of the Haunted Mansion usually goes. It's not one of the worst. It's fine. It's done better as a considering that she doesn't have like one specific fear. She suffers from anxiety, so she just has like general fears. And the metaphor here is done better. It's done better here than in the 2003 movie, I'd say. And also, I like how they depict anxiety here. They describe it as like this crippling. Sometimes it can be crippling. Sometimes it just comes out of nowhere, and it can come from all corners. And it can just have no source. It can just happen to you, and you don't know what to do next. And I mean, just the way they depict and describe anxiety is pretty good in this book. It was pretty relatable at times for me. I liked it. And also they portray her. I mean, it's not a lot, but she does go to therapy. There are some chapters that open with her going to her therapy session, and it's actually depicted pretty well. Like the therapist character, he is depicted as a pretty cool guy. He's nice. I like that this is, I mean, I don't know what the age range for this book. I assume they're going to market it towards children, younger kids. But from the way that depicts things like anxiety and therapy, it's pretty well done. A positive portrayal of going to therapy as like a casual thing, not like something that is, I don't know how to describe it. Like it's like a, like it's not treated as like a super big deal, like a casual thing she does to help with anxiety. It's not like, it's positive. It's a good portrayal of therapy. I appreciated it. Appreciated it. Yeah, my tongue tied. Yeah. Another positive are with two other characters that are introduced in this book. I like the character. There's this character named Elk. She starts off as like this stereotypical troublemaking kind of goth chick, but then like they do with this thing with her character later in the book that I don't think I'm gonna spoil, but she does go through like an interesting character arc or development near the end that is pretty nice. It made me like her character. I also just liked her character in general because I felt like she just said stuff I was thinking when I was reading the book at times, because I'm like, when it comes to like the meandering of it sometimes, and she would just say random things, and I was like, yeah, I could relate to that feeling. So like, she's pretty cool. Another character, Sterling, who you learn halfway through the book, so pretty early on, he is a ghost. He is a ghost resident in the Haunted Mansion. But Sterling, I guess he looks more human-like than the other ghosts from the descriptions. But he's there, and he was like a photographer, and he builds like a friendship with Audrey, and it's pretty nice. I liked his character. He was a cool character. And out of those three, were the character, at least the original new characters, I like the most. All the others we'll get in a second when it comes to character writing. But yeah, some of the I guess Easter eggs or cameos from characters. If you are a fan of characters like Madame Leota or Amicus Arcane, I think was the name. He's from the other book site, like another Haunted Mansion related book series, I think. If you like those two characters, they appear quite frequently throughout the book. Although Amicus Arcane doesn't appear until near the end. And Madame Leota is the more reoccurring character. So that's a plus. Okay, now let's get into negatives, because I have a lot to say on negatives. Again, with Madame Leota. In this book, for some reason, they made her thing, every time she appeared, her thing was like she had to speak in rhymes. And it's not the worst depiction of her character I've seen, or interpretation, but it got kind of tiring after a while. So yeah, another big negative, if you are a fan of the Haunted Mansion but you like other characters, like say the Hitchhiking Ghost or the Hatbox Ghost or Ghost Host or one of the portraits, like if you're a fan of any other the character or the bride is in the book, but she is not named. They never explicitly named the bride, although it is very obviously supposed to be Constance Hatchaway because they mention her axe a lot, so it's obviously her. But if you're a fan of any other Haunted Mansion character outside of Arcane or Madame Leota, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you're going to be disappointed because they are relegated to quick cameos that you'll miss if you don't read closely enough. And that's kind of one of the main disappointing things personally for me. And I don't want to say I wanted like fan service and stuff, like full on just these characters all the time. But I guess I was hoping for more, like more interaction and just more general involvement with those characters. I mean, with how popular the Hatbox Ghosts or the Hitchhiking Ghosts are, I was expecting maybe more of them, or at least some of them at all, but they weren't. Other iconic characters, like I'm trying to others, the mummy, most of the the caretaker and the dog, they're in this, but once again they're depicted as ghosts, not living humans, which is an interpretation I understand why people do sometimes, but I personally don't. I didn't like it. They're ghosts again. Did not care for it. But and they also aren't big characters. They appear for the dog appears more than the caretaker, honestly. But they're not in it that much. Most of the ghost characters from the graveyard. There's a scene in the ballroom that's actually pretty nice. I like that scene. And there's a quick reference to how real historical figures seem to be in the mansion. There's a quick reference to Julius Caesar at one point, which is pretty funny. But again, they're just quick cameos. It's like a blink or you'll miss it kind of thing for laughs. But they don't play big roles. They're not big characters. Which I understand if you want to focus on the newer characters and have the Haunted Mansion be the backdrop for it. But when I'm reading a Haunted Mansion book, I want to see some of the Haunted Mansion characters that I know. I want to see more of the ghosts that I know, because I know those characters, you get it? So yeah, the lack of more Haunted Mansion characters being more involved in the main plot, I'm a bit disappointed we didn't get. There was the writing when the chapter or the plot didn't take place within the Haunted Mansion and the characters being in it or exploring it, or an event happening within it, and it was just outside of it, at their school. Which, by the way, another fun Easter egg: the school that the main character goes to is called Gracie Hall, which I thought was a fun reference in a way to use the name Gracie without making it be the Haunted Mansion related to the mansion. Call it Gracie Mansion, or Master Gracie's place or whatever. They did that. They made it the school's name instead, which I thought was an interesting Easter egg. And the mansion continues to just be a mystery, just doesn't belong to anyone. We don't know. That's fun. I liked that. But yeah, the writing, when it wasn't describing an event or had anything to do within the Haunted Mansion itself, outside, when they were when the characters were in school or just in the neighborhood, I got kind of bored and kind of started to speed read, because it was just so boring and meandering, and it felt like it went on forever at that point. And keep in mind, this is a 40 chapter long book. I don't feel like a Haunted Mansion book needs to be 40 chapters. But when it wasn't in the Haunted Mansion itself, it just felt like it went on forever. And I got kind of bored at times. I'm not going to lie. They weren't bad paragraphs or descriptions, but they were very, ordinary. There wasn't anything outstanding about the way things were described or caught my attention very much. The other characters, outside of the 3 characters that I listed in the positive sections, all the other characters were just kind of either annoying at most, or I was just empathetic to at worst. I felt nothing for most characters. I didn't care much for her parents. The main character had this younger brother who I felt wasn't even necessary. She could have just been an only child with no younger brother character, and nothing would have changed much in those sections. She has these 2 friends who are more important to the plot, but the way they were written weren't very interesting to me. And I just didn't feel myself getting super attached to them. And I guess the writer would have hoped I would have, but I just didn't care for them very much. But the worst character, my God, you guys, when you read this book, you need to be prepared for this character. His name is Chase. She is our main character's boyfriend, who, first of all, I didn't even feel like she needed a boyfriend or any romantic interest for that matter, because when you're reading a Haunted Mansion book, I feel like the last thing you're there to read about is romance and romance and like all this will they, won't they, do they have a crush, oh they're flustered, all that ridiculous stuff. Like, at least personally for me, that's the last thing I expect in a Haunted Mansion book or anything. But like, Chase is her boyfriend, and oh my God, is he annoying. I freaking hated him. He was so boring, so unnecessary. And there are just parts near the end of the book where he becomes like this whiny little, like, and excuse my language, but he becomes this whiny little turd. And I could not stand him. And the writer tries to make him seem three-dimensional by like having negative traits, but also some positive traits, but I just could not buy it. I did not care. I could have done without him. Get him out of this book. His mere existence in this book probably is what made me not enjoy him more than I should have. Get Chase out of here. But, yeah. Before I go, I just remembered another positive. In the beginning and middle of the book, there's like, when they're setting up the main villain, the Shade, the main character, Audrey, she starts like getting possessed by like spirits that are working for the Shade or associate with him. And there are like these long descriptions of like when she's possessed and what those spirits who are possessing her at the time are doing, things that they are attached to and liked when they were alive, they're making her do because they need to retrieve, these keys. Yeah, they're retrieving keys because each spirit has like a key. It happens 3 times. So they collect 3 keys. And now that I'm thinking about it, do they ever like resolve that? It happens earlier in the book, and I've been reading this book for like forever. So I'm just trying to remember if those keys actually paid off to anything. I don't think they did. Oh my gosh, I don't think the keys paid off to anything. I think it was just quickly mentioned and what they did, and then it was passed like skimmed over to like the next thing of like the Shade escaping and needing a vessel to like attack the Haunted Mansion or for whatever reason. I don't know. So yeah, maybe that was also like a useless plot point in the end. I don't know how I feel about that now that I'm saying it out loud. But yeah. But I just brought that up because that was also an interesting part in the book that I just remembered, and I didn't want to end this review without mentioning it. But yeah. That was my general review of Haunted Mansion, Storm and Shade by Claudia Gray. I give it a solid 5.5. No, I give it a 5 out of 10. So like middle ground. So like in the middle. It's mid. Like not too bad, but not great either. Like it didn't live to like it didn't live up to my expectations for it, but it didn't totally disappoint me either. So like mid. So yeah, 5 out of 10. That's it. Okay, so if you enjoyed this book review, please like, comment, subscribe. For more content. I hope you enjoyed this rambling review of me trying to get my thoughts together, because I just finished reading this book like an hour ago, and I just wanted to get all these thoughts out now before I forget. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. This has been Just Some Fangirl, and we are out.